Alright, before we jump into the rankings, it's worth pointing out that building a great team in LumenTale Memories of Trey isn't always about chasing the rarest Animon you can find. Some of the strongest team members actually show up much earlier than you'd expect, and if you invest in them, they can carry you through huge portions of the game. Between powerful elemental matchups, multi-target attacks, and some surprisingly strong evolutions, a few of these Anamon are absolute game changers. The trick is knowing which ones are worth your resources and which ones are better left on the bench. The game features more than 140 Animon species with different elemental strengths and battle roles, so smart team building matters just as much as raw power. In this tier list, we're going to break down the very best Animon in LumenTale. Memories of Trey talk about what makes them stand out and help you decide where to spend your time leveling and evolving. Some picks will be obvious fan favorites, while others might surprise you once you see what they're capable of in battle. So if you're trying to build the strongest squad possible and avoid wasting valuable resources, stick around because we've got plenty of top tier Animon to cover. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking Animons in LumenTale Memories of Trey. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The Animons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Svita, Garbasilisk, Burchet, Lopiuna, and Babalura. One of the funny things about B tier in LumenTale Memories of Trey is that these Animon are always one good battle away from making you question why they are not ranked higher. They might not completely take over a fight the way the top tier monsters do, but they bring enough tricks, coverage, and utility to stay relevant for a surprisingly long time. If you enjoy finding hidden gems instead of blindly following the strongest picks, this group has plenty to offer. Svita is probably the biggest. Don't judge a book by its cover candidate here. Its access to electric, water, geo, and demon attacks gives it plenty of options when dealing with different enemy types. What really makes it interesting though is the hyper strength quirk. If you're lucky enough to get it, Svita suddenly turns into a much bigger threat because both its attack and special attack stats are doubled during battle. That's the kind of upgrade that can make opponents go from "this should be easy" to "why is this thing hitting like a truck?" Garbasilisk is another solid choice that starts paying off fairly early. Since Smelwing can be found in Scarlet Woods, you don't have to wait forever to begin building toward it. Once evolved, Garbasilisk gains access to Virus, Anomalous, and Demon attacks, giving it respectable coverage. It also learns powerful multi-target moves like Vile Wave and Infernal Wave. If you've ever looked at a group of enemies and wished you could hit all of them at once instead of taking turns, Garbasilisk is happy to make that dream come true. Burchet fills as a very useful niche, especially for players who skipped Vortail earlier in the adventure. It provides access to Aura, Anomalous, and Chakra attacks while also being available directly without needing to evolve a weaker base form first. Its last leg quirk can occasionally save it from being knocked out by a single devastating hit, which can completely change the outcome of a close fight. On top of that, its director skill increases the special points pool for the next 3 rounds, giving your team more resources to work with when battles start getting messy. Lopiuna is one of those Anamon that quietly does its job until you suddenly realize how much value it has been providing. Since Almiuna can be caught as early as Scarlet Woods, getting started is easy. Its director skill also boosts the team's special points pool for 3 rounds, but the real fun comes from combining the Lucky Break quirk with the Cerium trait. Together, they improve the chances of landing critical hits while also increasing the likelihood of triggering secondary effects. Add in a strong collection of ice attacks, and you have an Anamon that loves turning probability in its favor. Then there's Babalura, which may not be the flashiest member of the tier, but it gets points for simplicity. OG Mask is available early and evolves without much hassle, making Babalura an easy addition to many teams. Most of its toolkit revolves around anomalous attacks, so it lacks some of the versatility seen in other options here. Still, if you need a reliable source of anomalous damage without jumping through a dozen hoops, Babalura gets the job done. Sometimes the best teammate isn't the one doing backflips and fireworks, it's the one quietly showing up every battle and handling its business. The Animons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Doryogun, Nefandel, Blizzball, Luxeco, and Reinagon. Some Anamon are strong because they have one incredible ability. Others are strong because they can adapt to almost any situation you throw at them. The A-tier lineup sits right in that sweet spot. These creatures may not completely dominate the game like the absolute best options available, but they are reliable, powerful, and capable of carrying your team through a huge portion of the adventure without breaking a sweat. Doryogun is the definition of a dependable damage dealer. It hits hard with physical attacks, has respectable speed, and comes with excellent coverage thanks to its fire, geo, chakra, and demon skills. Another huge advantage is that you can catch Doryogun directly without going through the usual evolution process. Defensively, it is surprisingly comfortable to use as well, since it is only weak to water and virus attacks. The only thing holding it back from climbing even higher is that most of its offensive power focuses on single target attacks, meaning it shines brightest when deleting one enemy at a time. Nefandel is a bit of a strange case because its biggest strength is also one of its biggest weaknesses. It has access to anomalous, fire, and virus attacks, giving it solid coverage against a variety of opponents. It can also learn Vile Wave, which allows it to pressure multiple enemies at once. Owaxel can be found as early as Iris Hamlet, making this evolution line available relatively early. The downside is that Nefandel tends to be slow, often acting last during a turn. If you want it to move sooner, you'll probably need to invest in agility or be careful about how you spend your special points. Blizzball feels like the kind of Anamon that was built specifically for players who enjoy smashing through enemy teams. Rushog from the northern route can be obtained fairly early, and once it evolves, you're rewarded with a powerful physical attacker that also maintains decent speed. Its toolkit focuses heavily on geo and ice attacks, and it even learns a few multi-target moves to help clear groups of enemies. There is something incredibly satisfying about watching Blizzball charge into battle and solve problems through pure force. Luxeco is one of those Anamon that rewards patience. Getting there can be a challenge because Lampeco is a rare encounter in Scarlet Woods, and evolving it is not exactly a quick process. However, players willing to put in the effort receive one of the strongest electric type options in the game. It offers excellent coverage through electric, data, aura, and ancient skills, making it useful in a wide variety of matchups. If you did not choose Ozalash for your team, Luxeco is probably the next name you'll want to keep an eye on. What makes Luxeco even more interesting is the possibility of obtaining the Supercharge quirk. This ability increases the Anamon's special points by 1 during battle, which may not sound game-changing at first, but over the course of longer encounters, those extra resources can add up quickly. More special points means more opportunities to use powerful abilities, and in difficult fights, that advantage can make a noticeable difference. Reinagon rounds out the A-tier roster with a very balanced package. Like Doryogun, it is a strong physical attacker that comes with decent speed and can be caught directly without evolving a weaker base form first. Its skill coverage includes water, geo, ancient, and demon attacks, giving it answers for many different situations. It can also learn Water Bomb, allowing it to damage multiple enemies at once when needed. Reinagon might not have the flashiest gimmick in the game, but it consistently performs well, and sometimes consistency is exactly what a team needs when things start getting difficult. The Animons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Obsidage, Cloller, Combian, Trepigator, and Carriganti. By the time you reach the S tier Anamon in LumenTale Memories of Trey, the conversation changes completely. At this point, we're no longer talking about creatures that are merely strong or reliable. These are the Anamon that can become the backbone of an entire team. If one of these joins your roster early, there's a good chance it will still be there when the credits roll. Obsidage earns its place among the elite thanks to a combination of availability and versatility. Molopom can be obtained surprisingly early, and if possible, you'll want one with the water hidden type before investing too heavily. Once fully evolved, Obsidage gains access to water, demon, ice, chakra, and ancient attacks, giving it answers for an incredible number of matchups. It also learns several multi-target moves, allowing it to pressure entire enemy teams instead of focusing on a single target. Few Anamon can adapt to as many situations as comfortably as Obsidage can. Cloller is another monster that starts strong and somehow keeps getting better. Pinchop can be caught early and is not particularly difficult to evolve, making this one of the most accessible S tier choices in the game. That alone would be enough to make it valuable. But Klola also benefits from the fact that strong water-focused Anamon are somewhat limited during the early stages of the adventure. Add water, virus, demon, and ice coverage into the mix, and you have an Anamon that can handle a huge variety of threats. If your Pinchop happens to roll the Hyper Strength quirk, things get even crazier. Doubling both attack and special attack effectively turns Klola into a walking natural disaster. Combian is the type of Anamon that quietly sneaks onto your team and then refuses to leave. Since Boobat can be found as early as the Area 1 cave, players gain access to this powerhouse much sooner than they might expect. Its fire, demon, anomalous, and aura attacks provide excellent coverage, while its collection of multi-target skills makes it especially effective in larger battles. Whether you're fighting one dangerous opponent or an entire group, Combian always seems to have the right tool for the job. Trepigator takes a slightly different approach to dominance. Rather than relying on gimmicks, it simply combines strong offensive stats with fantastic typing. Its virus, data, electric, and geo attacks allow it to threaten a wide range of enemies, while its defensive profile is equally impressive. Being weak only to fire and chakra attacks means there are relatively few situations where opponents can exploit a clear weakness. On top of that, Trepigator hits hard with physical attacks and has enough speed to stay competitive throughout most encounters. One of the reasons Trepigator feels so powerful in practice is that it rarely puts you in an uncomfortable position. Many Animon force you to constantly think about unfavorable matchups or dangerous counters. Trepigator does the opposite. It enters battle, applies pressure immediately, and often leaves opponents scrambling to find a way around it. That kind of consistency is incredibly valuable during difficult story battles and challenging endgame content. Finally, there is Karaganti, which might have the most ridiculous defensive trait of the entire S-tier roster. It is immune to every damage type except fire attacks. Read that again. Almost everything in the game struggles to deal meaningful damage to it unless fire is involved. That level of durability alone would make Karaganti worth considering, but it also brings anomalous, geo, and demon attacks to the table. While its offensive coverage is not quite as broad as some of the other S-tier monsters, its ability to shrug off nearly every attack in the game makes it feel like a boss that somehow joined your party instead of fighting against it. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.